The NHL is officially back, which is why there's a Saturday special of your daily source for fantasy hockey, NHL news, and betting breakdowns coming in hot. The Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast breaking down some sneaky second line shuffles that could take your team over the top, plus some more injury news and a loaded betting board. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is go time, hockey heads. The Four Nations face-off is in the rear view, and the championship title is on the line over the coming weeks for fantasy GMs across the NHL. Welcome back inside the lab, everybody, to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Shout out to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Shout out to my co-host, Mr. Steele Rodin. On this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Today, my friends, there is a lot to get to. Matthew Tkachuk, we'll start there. But honestly, Steele, there's some sneaky little impacts here with some opportunities for some players that you and I will talk about a little bit. That could be some sneaky ads here over the next couple of days. The Columbus Blue Jackets getting a trio of players back in the lineup. We'll talk about that as well. And 14 games on tap today, Steele. So we have a number of picks. I got 6 picks ready to ride. I'm excited to talk bets with you. So over to you, though. Because Matthew Tkachuk, a very important player, top fantasy piece. We don't know the extent of the injury. He missed the finale of the Four Nations. I have a sneaking suspicion he might miss some time here.
Yeah, it makes me really think about the decision making for Team USA and their management of putting him in the lineup instead of Kyle Connor. Going into the tournament, Kyle Connor was Team USA's leading goal scorer. And yeah, he didn't have a great tournament, but if you know Matthew Tkachuk is injured and is battling through this nagging injury, why not sit him and put in Kyle Connor, one of the top goal scorers in the league this season? And he, unfortunately for Team USA, Tkachuk's injury cost him playing in the third period and overtime. They could have used and utilized Kyle Connor in that position. So looking back at it, makes me think why they went with that decision. Obviously Matthew Tkachuk is still an incredible player and he can change the game even with injuries. But if he's going to sit for 2 periods going into overtime, it's not a good look. But he will miss some time. He will miss this game today against the Seattle Kraken. Yep. And we'll probably talk about this game going into big time bets as well. But I mean, it's unfortunate that it happens at this time because, we talk about all these guys coming back from injury. It just gives them that extra week to just get some rest, rehab the injury, get to 100%. And then on the other hand, you have guys who are playing in the tournament who are battling through injury, battling for their country, and now they're injured, and it might cost you a fantasy week win in those weekly matchups. So losing Matthew Tkachuk obviously hurts, but for Florida specifically, they get Sam Reinhart was in the tournament. He'll be back ready to go. The rest of the team enjoyed a week and a half vacation. They'll be ready to go Saturday against the Seattle Kraken.
Sam Bennett also on Team Canada.
Too, yeah.
Barkov was also obviously a key piece of what was going on for Finland. But realistically here, Steele, this Florida team is still sitting pretty in the Atlantic Division, currently holding down that top spot. The angles here are this for me. I think realistically, Matthew Tkachuk has been playing through injury basically since he finished last season winning the Stanley Cup. I also think that this Florida Panthers team with Mackie Semiskevich getting a little look here, and I know that's not a name that jumps off the page and one that you and I have ever actually even mentioned, but taking his opportunity playing on the second line with Sam Bennett, Evan Rodriguez, he's going to eat some minutes. And I know this is only one game, but even if it's 2 or 3, we might talk about him on Monday's waiver wire episode. Make sure you're tuned in for that. These are the angles that have to be utilized right now. You're going to have to grab a player, get in there, throw him in the lineup in a good situation. We'll talk about Matthew Savoie in a minute. That's another one that, it might not be a long-term thing, but this kid, Samiskevich, stepping in for Tkachuk on a good team, on a second line, playing with Sam Bennett, I want a piece. Also, this kid, Steele, this season, 8 goals, 9 assists in 48 games, doesn't jump off the page, but he's got a little bit of skill set. He's a former first-round pick, and he throws the body around. So if this kid goes out there with some energy, some boosted minutes, gets you 4 or 5 hits, pops a goal, and maybe gets in a scrap or something, that could be the situation between winning and losing. And right now, we're running out of time to do that. So I think there's a couple of different angles that we're going to talk about here. But just like with the Blue Jackets, maybe perhaps take a look. Does it fit your team? And pull the trigger.
I'm surprised you haven't picked him up already. I saw that you were up and early today this morning, picking up players off the waiver wire in the casual league.
Yep.
Jacob Slavin. I see where your head's at right now. Big tournament for Slavin, Carolina. Hey. Everyone's talking about. Hey, there's the word going around the hockey community that he's probably the best defensive defenseman in the league right now after the performance he put up for Team USA. That. But you got to keep your eyes peeled, keep your eye on the ball, and pull that trigger when these opportunities arise. And I think the same could probably be said for Matt Savoie making his NHL debut with the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about him right after the break. Let's talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets very quickly if you're good. And we also have a lot of bets to get to. So we'll try and keep this short and sweet. But I guess what has to be said here is, number one, Boone Jenner returning here. He slid into the boards in practice at the start of the season. He hasn't played at all. This guy, when he's healthy, when he's on his game, he is a very good fantasy piece. And I think there's going to be some GMs out there that have him now back in their lineup that they're going to get a nice little boost. Also taking the fact that the Columbus Blue Jackets are 1 point back of a playoff spot, and we've said this at length, and I'm going to bring this up one more time. The Columbus Blue Jackets have been a really good offensive team this season, Steele, sitting in the top 10 in scoring for most of the year. They're tied for 9th in NHL goals for. Jenner. Marchenko also returning. Dean Evison said he'll be back in the lineup Saturday. And also Dante Fabro, who's having a very good season, Steele. I have my eyes peeled on the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think there's a ton of value here for a team lurking in a playoff spot. Definitely some value to be had for your fantasy squad.
Big return for when they're pushing for the playoffs right now. To get Marchenko back in the lineup is absolutely huge for their chances to make the postseason. And the story of Marchenko, getting a puck to the face, breaking his jaw, surgery and everything in between there. And he's already back at this instance, ready to go after the Four Nations face-off tournament. So crucial piece to this Columbus team. Obviously getting Boone Jenner, one of the veterans, the biggest leader in this organization right now. Just getting him back into the lineup for his season as well is huge. And there's definitely a lot of fantasy value with him. Might not jump off the page offensive-wise, but the peripherals, the physicality, shots on net, blocks, he does it all. Of course, he chips in offensively. It's just not one of his standouts of his game. And this Columbus team still has so many injuries and crucial players that are out right now. You have Chinnikov, you have Sean Monahan, you have Sillinger, Goodbranson on the blue line. So they're still missing a few pieces, and we're going to have to keep our eyes on the news for Sean Monahan when his timeline and his return to the Columbus Blue Jackets and game action will be. But this team, they're on the verge of a playoff spot right now. I believe the first time in the last 4 or 5 seasons. And these young guns are making a case for themselves. If they can just get some really good goaltending from either Merzlikins or Tarasov, I think that's a crucial piece for Columbus to actually make it into a postseason spot.
Hit the nail on the head, as always, Mr. Rodin. I appreciate you. I'm excited to talk a lot about these bets. Matthew Savoie, after the break, I got one more point I want to make about the Blue Jackets as well. Don't miss Monday's waiver wire episode next week. We're here all week, Monday through Friday. Tap into the channel. Shout out to the everydayers. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts, delicious, nutritious. Tap into 1 ounce serving. Every 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you, unsaturated fats to keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, and I know Steele got me on this one, we love the no shells variety, the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Snacking at my desk, you know how I feel about that, Steele, on a roadie or just a quick protein boost. They're always our go-to here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell option options are also an absolute classic. Get snacking, get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen and tuning into the Saturday special. We got so much to talk about for big time bets.
Yes.
14 games on the schedule. And yeah, thank you so much for hitting that subscribe button. Share with your friends and family out there. Flip and I really do appreciate all that love and support you show us on the YouTube channel, on Twitter, and your favorite podcast platform out there. We're going to get to big time bets at the end of the episode. Matthew Savoie making his NHL debut with the Edmonton Oilers. Talk about his fantasy value and opportunity with them. But last couple of points on this Blue Jackets team.
What's intriguing for me is I'd actually think the power play for this Columbus Blue Jackets team would be a lot better. Right now, sitting outside the top half of the NHL, 21% efficiency. Marchenko back, Jenner back, Fabro balancing out that back end. If this team can improve its special teams play style, you're going to hear this a lot from me as we push towards the playoffs. You know how I feel about winning teams in the postseason. Excuse me, they got to be good on the PP and the PK. And the Columbus Blue Jackets, with these players coming back, what I'm trying to say is there might be a little fantasy boost in the power play points department for this Columbus team as well. And the only thing working against me there, and you know I got to throw this out as well, Steele, they have one of the tougher schedules down the stretch. Fifth toughest schedule. They've got a lot of good teams coming in here, Steele. 2 against the Caps, 2 against the Cats, Bolts, Vegas, Dallas, Toronto. A whole bunch of tough clubs coming up. So that's really, I think, going to be a litmus test for this club. We'll see what they're made of fantasy-wise or other. Over to you, though, because Matthew Savoie is a very intriguing name. And when you look at the line shuffling that Coach Knobloch is throwing out there, and he's on the wing with Leon Draisaitl, and this is a kid who put up 90 points and 95 points for the Winnipeg Ice in the dub only a couple of years ago, and then looked pretty comfortable playing in the AHL for his limited amount of time that he had, 45 games, 37 points. I'm very, very intrigued for a very recent 9th overall draft pick that can really skate.
Yeah, if you're talking about opportunity in your NHL debut and you're looking over to your left and you see Leon Draisaitl, I think you want a piece of Savoie, even though it is his NHL debut. And the Edmonton Oilers have a good game today against the Philadelphia Flyers at 1 o'clock. So I believe this episode will probably be coming out around that time. So it might be a little late if you're not on the news and on the ball yourself. But this is a huge opportunity, like you said. I think when we look back to the trade between Buffalo and Edmonton for Savoie, I think a lot of us were a little bit confused. It's like, okay, you're trading Ryan McLeod for this prospect, this guy who has so much potential, and that was drafted 9th overall in the 2022 draft. It was a little odd. I will say McLeod has played pretty well for the Buffalo Sabres this year, but when you have a guy who, like you said, 90, 95 points with the Winnipeg Ice in 2021 and 2022, and then just this last 2 years, he had 47 points in 23 games with Moose Jaw Warriors and then 37 with Bakersfield Condors. This is a kid that can score. This is a kid that can play make, facilitate, use his speed to his advantage, and he's going to have to when he's playing with Leon Draisaitl and Podkolzin on that second line for Edmonton.
Absolutely, Steele. Again, fantasy diamonds in the rough. If he gets any run out or forms any chemistry on Leon Draisaitl's wing, there's no saying that he will. But if he does, and you were kind of looking, you were just hovering here, about to punch your ticket to the playoffs, perhaps, or you're a team that's already nasty, and you go out there and you take a shot on this kid, I think this is one of those situations. It's going to be boom or bust, right? He's either going to click, it's going to stick, or Chris Knobloch's going to shuffle those lines around a little bit. I think Chuck Knobloch retired from the MLB about 18 years ago. Anyway, he's not coaching in the NHL. However, we got to highlight these angles for you guys out there to pounce on. Not a lot of track record to go on, obviously, for Samoskevich or for Savoie, but I think both of them in really good spots warrant some attention. And you're right, Steele. I was very active on the waiver wire. I'm in that situation. I'm right there on the bubble trying to push through. It's okay to take some risks at this point, especially if you are on the outside looking in. However, the Edmonton Oilers down the stretch are a team that I have said repeatedly you want a piece of. You hear it from us again. Very offensively potent club. Clearly, get a piece of it. Now, if you're okay, Steele, I have a lot of bets to talk about. We can do our, I don't know if you want to do a crazy 12-leg, 14-leg parlay as well. I'm game. I don't know where you're looking, but I'm ready to talk bets.
Let's do a big parlay, money line only. We'll rapid fire. We'll get to our favorite 3 picks before the break. I do just want to say right now, also, I believe you mentioned this on yesterday's episode, but both Josh Morrissey and Connor Hellebuck will miss Winnipeg Jets' first game back tonight. Saturday. So both Connor Hellebuck and Josh Morrissey will be out. Eric Comrie will get the crease in Saturday. Let's get to our bets, and then when we come back from break, we'll do a full Saturday money line parlay with all the games on Saturday. But Flip, over to you, my friend.
Yes.
Big time bets. What are your 3 favorite picks for this weekend?
So I'm going to hit you with 3 side bets first. I've got 6 picks
Side
that I really
bets.
like, including a lock of the night. Winnipeg Jets into the St. Louis Blues. Even with Connor Hellebuck out and Josh Morrissey out, I still like the Jets on the money line here, minus
Love it
120.
too.
They are a really good road team, Steele, and that's not just the only angle that matters in this situation. I'm just not buying into the Blues. 17-9-0, the Winnipeg Jets away from home. By far the best goal differential in the NHL at plus 68. I know Jordan Binnington. I believe it's Joel Hofer's crease. I think that's the situation here, so tap into that as well. I might lean to the under, but I really like the Winnipeg Jets on the money line, and I'll spit out my next 2 picks. I apologize. I'm fired up. Utah, LA, Kings at home. Both of these teams can score goals in bunches. This number's sitting at 5.5. I'm not buying into it. Give me the over 5.5 in Utah, LA. I could be very wrong on this one, considering how tough it's going to be to handicap after the break. 5.5. That looks juicy. Give me the over. And Mac Daddy, Nathan McKinnon. This is a great spot for the Colorado Avalanche in Nashville. Anytime goal for Mac Daddy at plus 120, coming off a tourney. These guys are going to be in turbo mode, ready to go, and I think he is going to hit the ground running. So that is my 3rd side bet. Nathan McKinnon, anytime goal at plus 120.
I like all 3 of those side bets right there, and a few of them actually going with my 3 favorite for tonight. First pick, I'm right there. I'm not taking Nathan McKinnon anytime goal, which I probably should, but I'm going to go with the Avalanche on the money line at minus 140 against the Nashville Predators, even with the break and then continuing to play hockey for their respective country. I really like this Colorado Avalanche team. Martin Necas, Mackenzie Blackwood, all those guys, Arturi Lehkonen as well. Avalanche money line minus 140 for my first pick. Second pick, I'm there with you again. Jets money line against the Blues minus 126. Even with Eric Comrie in the net, I think he's been a great backup goaltender for the Winnipeg Jets in the limited amount of games that he's actually played. The record isn't great. It's 5-7-1, but he has a 912 save percentage and a 2.58 goals against average. So even without Josh Morrissey helping him in front, I still think Eric Comrie is a sound backup goaltender and can get the job done against the Blues team. I'm right there with you with that second pick. Third pick, I got to go with my boys here at home. Leafs on the money line at plus 106 against the Hurricanes. I honestly think the Hurricanes have been struggling. They have been. Mika Rantanen hasn't been great in a Hurricanes jersey so far. They do have Frederik Andersen back, and the goaltending has been pretty solid. But I think in this instance, with everything that's being said around Austin Matthews right now, not getting on the score sheet with a goal over the tournament, he's going to be pretty fired up and juiced. Mitch Marner winning the tournament, he's going to be pretty pumped and juiced as well. I got to go with my boys, Leafs, money line plus 106.
Okay, I like that. You've got more confidence than I do in this spot. I don't know what it is about Carolina. They give me fits when I bet on them or bet against them, bet with them or I bet against them. Exactly. So I've got my 3 favorite picks ready, Ride. Why don't we quickly go to break? I'll drop them down, and then I'm excited to get to a quick rapid fire. Let's go for a 13 or 14 legger here still very quickly. You know, it's going to catch a 4 or a 5 piece, and we'll get this paper.
We're going to do that after the break. Big time bets and the full slate board. Money line 14 leg parlay. That's coming up next. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in for the Saturday Special with your boy, Flip Livingstone and Steele Rodin. Make sure you share with your friends and family out there. Hit the subscribe button, the follow button, and leave that 5-star review. It really does mean the world to Flip and I. Flip, your 3 favorite picks, and then we'll get down to breaking this 14-leg parlay for Saturday.
Every Saturday, I also post my picks over at Dauber Hockey. I got a full breakdown every single Saturday, so I'll hit you with my bronze selection because that's how I roll with it on Saturday, Steel. I'm going with the under 6.5 in the Carolina-Toronto game. This one has goalie battle written all over it. Freddie actually in his career doesn't have great numbers against his former club, but I think he's looked pretty good in the 9 games he's played this season. 6-3-1 record, 2.12 goals against, and a 914 save percentage. Stolars, before getting hurt, he was one of the best goaltenders in the league. 10-5-2, 2.08 goals against average, and a 929 save percentage. Goalie battle written all over it. Both of these teams now hang their hat in the defensive end. Both teams sit in the top 10 for goals against. 6.5. I'm taking it up to 6.5. It's sitting at 5.5. You still get a pretty good price here at minus 165. So hit me with the under 6.5 and what I think will be a very tight checking game. Avs, money line. You talked about it. Everybody headed after that trade for Mikko Rantanen was talking about how good this is going to be for Carolina. How about what it's meant for the Colorado Avalanche? 4 big wins in their last 5 games. They rounded out the break, I believe, Steele. They beat a really good team. I forget who. Oh, they beat the Winnipeg Jets in comeback fashion right to end the break. So I love what I'm seeing from Colorado. 7-3-1 in their last 10 and 11 wins in their last 14 against Nashville. Avalanche, money line, favorite pick of the night. I don't think you would predict this one, Steele. Boston Bruins at home to the Anaheim Ducks looks like a really good spot for the Bruins. But how about for David Pastrnak? 4+ shots on net for David Pastrnak is my lock of the night. Headed into the break.
I love that one.
He had, so take this in, Steele. To start the season, he was very slow, right? He only scored 8 goals in his first 25 games. Since then, 21 in 32 games. He's up to 68 points. And in his career, over the 16 games, 74 shots on net. What does that average to? 4.4. So hit me with 4+ shots on goal for David Pastrnak. That's my lock of the night. Smash them all together if you'd like, but I'm ready for this parlay.
Loving the picks, loving the side bets, but you're right. Let's get to this Saturday full board money line leg parlay, starting with the Wild and the Red Wings. Who are you taking in this instance?
If Kirill Kaprizov was back, I would quickly take the Wild. I'm going to go Red Wings at home. They were playing some pretty good hockey headed into the break. However, that's a coin flip game in my opinion.
Coin flip, I agree with. I'm also going to go with the Red Wings because they're without Kaprizov. And like you said, Gustafsson was looking a little shaky. Oilers and Flyers, I think this one's easy. We're both going to go with the Oilers over the Flyers. Capitals over Penguins.
Yep.
It's easy, this one. Capitals, I assume you're going with Capitals as well. Who do you got in this one? Rangers and Sabres.
Shesterkin should be back in the cage. That's what it was sounding like. If I check into that and he's in, it's going to be Rangers. If not, I actually kind of like the Sabres at home to start fresh a little bit here and maybe make some noise down the stretch. Far too good young team to be as bad as they've been.
Right now, Sabres money line minus 105, Rangers minus 114. It is a coin flip toss game, but for this instance, for this parlay, I'm going to put the Sabres in there as of right now.
Okay.
Going to the next game, Stars and Devils.
Right now, I'm seeing the Stars at plus 102 on the money line, and I don't really fully understand why, especially with, I know Jake Allen has been okay in the cage for Jacob Markstrom, but I still think this should be a situation that's at least even. Give me the Stars for the juice, Steele, plus 102. That's just me, though.
I like the juice as well in this instance, still without Miro Heiskanen. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm not quite sure why it's plus 102 either, but I'll take the juice right there. Kraken and Panthers. I think we're both going with the Panthers in this instance. We both said Avalanche against the Preds.
Yep.
Hurricanes and Leafs. I'll leave this one up for you. You got to pick one. But you got the Hurricanes.
I'm going to go with the Leafs.
Okay, we'll go with the Leafs because, we got to pick the juice there. Plus 106 for the Leafs at home.
Yep.
Getting Matthews back, getting Marner back. And then, like you said, probably a goalie showdown between Joseph Wall or whoever's in net for either team. Montreal Canadiens, Ottawa Senators. Who you taking?
Yeah, so this is a really tough one for me, Steele. Obviously, the Ottawa Senators were kind of banged up. Josh Norris, Shane Pinto, a couple of other pieces. If we weren't taking money lines, I'd go over in this case. I'm inclined to take plus 132 for the Montreal Canadiens, but Ottawa was playing some really good hockey before the break, so I'm going to take the Sens at home as well.
Yeah, I'm taking the Sens at home too. Boston Bruins, Anaheim Ducks. I believe you alluded to pretty much going with the Boston Bruins over the Anaheim Ducks.
Not a ton of value. Like if I was doing a 3 or 4 leg parlay, I'm not throwing the Bruins at home against the Ducks. By the way, headed into the break, the Ducks won 3 straight games and looked pretty good. Shout out Jackson Lacombe one time. So here in this situation, a 14 leg parlay. By the way, I'm doing this on my screen here. The odds are getting very juicy. Bruins at home on the money line. Next one here though, Blackhawks Blue Jackets. That's a tough one for me. Flip a coin. I'll lean Blue Jackets, but for the juice, I might take the Blackhawks.
I don't mind. I actually had a $5 bonus bet and I made a full leg parlay. I believe I took the Blackhawks, so I'm going to do another one because we're doing it right now. I took the Blackhawks in the first one. I wouldn't mind taking the Blue Jackets in this one just to have some variety and maybe save myself if things go south.
All three of those players returning as well.
Yeah, all 3 of those players returning. I will go. I did take the Blackhawks in this one for the juice, but for this instance, I'll take the Blue Jackets on the money line. We still like the Jets over the Blues. Yep. Utah Hockey versus LA Kings. Who you taking on the money line?
Another coin flip game. I'm just going to go like this. Honestly, Steele, I could see this one finishing 4-3, 5-4. That's good for my over. The over's paying plus 100 at 5.5. I love that. Even tease it down to 4.5. You'll get a good odd. I'll spit this out. I'm going to take the LA Kings at home. I like the Kings. Drew Doughty is back and very confident. I think he'll be in the lineup making a difference. Let's go with the Kings at home. I'd rather get burned by taking the Kings than taking Utah on the road and getting pooched.
I like that angle as well. Last game of the night, Canucks versus Golden Knights. This one's easy for me. I'm going with the Golden Knights. I don't like the way this team is shaping up in Vancouver.
That's totally fair. The Vancouver Canucks have been absolutely burning me this season. Vegas, Aiden Hill didn't play, so he's probably going to be in the cage Saturday. By the way, I don't know what yours says. $5 on this bad boy pays out $7,500 Steele. Hey, I would just like to see us get even like 10 or 11 of these, right? But let's keep track. We'll revisit this on Monday's waiver wire special.
14 leg parlay. The odds are plus 151,000 and 591. Just to repeat the overall board that we picked: Red Wings, Oilers, Capitals, Sabres, Stars, Panthers, Avalanche, Leafs, Senators, Bruins, Blue Jackets, Jets, Kings, and Golden Knights. $5 pays you $7,500. 14 leg money line parlay
free
on
money
FanDuel. Free money. That's what we do on Big Time Bets.
Yep.
Thank you so much for tuning in for the Saturday special, making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. For your second listen, please check out the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Like always, from Flip and I, we wish you good luck with your bets, your weekly matchups, and we shall see you back here again on Monday.
Peace.